Fair. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial.
Declaration of conflict of interest. Not seeing any. Okay, we'll move on to the adoption of public agenda. Committee of Adjustment agenda for August 20th, 2024, moved by Bill, seconded by Doreen. All in favor? Passed. Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes for June 18th, 2024. Bill moves it. Seconded by Doreen. All in favor? That's good. Oh, sorry.
At the last meeting, Saul abstained from the meeting record approval. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot. Okay, now we'll move to the first application, B1524. Ian, you want to take the floor?
All righty. All right, thank you, Chair. Our first application tonight is B1524 for the property 255 Laird Avenue, located at the western corner of the intersection between Milne Street and Laird Avenue. The subject property is designated residential in the Town of Essex official plan and is zoned residential District 1.1 in the Town of Essex zoning bylaw. The applicant is currently constructing a semi-detached dwelling on the subject property and is proposing to sever the building so that each semi-detached dwelling unit is located on a separately conveyable lot. Therefore, the applicants are proposing to sever a 291 square meter parcel from the existing 578 square meter residential lot. The retained residential lot is proposed to have an area of 287 square meters, and the applicant is proposing this consent for the creation of one lot. Next slide, please. So here we have a site plan detailing what the applicant is proposing to construct. When we have a semi-detached dwelling that we are looking to sever down that common wall, we do require that they put the foundations in first so that when the survey comes back, it notes exactly where that center line wall is, which is why this property is currently under construction if you've driven by it recently, and as you'll see in my pictures. But here you'll see both units, Unit A and Unit B. Unit B being the corner lot against Milne Street and Laird. Next slide, please. Here we just have some elevations of the proposed. Next slide, please. And then here we just have a rendering. Right. Here you can see that foundation where the image is taken so that you see the center line right at the center of the image. You can see where both units will be in that front yard there. Next slide, please. And then here you can see the required yards. At the top left, you can see the required exterior corner lot line. Yard. Image on the right, you can see the required rear yard. And then the image on the bottom left, you can see the required left interior lot line. Next slide, please. And then here, we have the analysis of the respective policies. So the provincial policy statement and the County of Essex official plan are both satisfied as the development is located within a settlement area, which is the focus of growth, and this utilizes full municipal services. This allows for both semi-detached dwelling units to be on separately conveyable lots, which does support a broader range of housing types. The Town of Essex official plan is deemed satisfied as it maintains the continuation of orderly development by dividing the subject property down that center wall. And then lastly, the regulations within the zoning bylaw are maintained as under section 9.5 of the zoning bylaw. The lot width for each parcel is now equal to the width of each dwelling plus the side yard. The lot area for each dwelling shall be considered existing at the time of severing, and both units cannot exceed 50% lot coverage, whereas they are roughly 38% for each. Next slide, please. And then here, we've received one comment from Infrastructure Services requiring that the applicant install separate municipal services and accesses for each lot. Infrastructure Services has also detailed that a driveway access off of Milne Street will not be supported. Next slide, please. And then here, we have standard conditions for the creation of one lot, such as payment of parkland in accordance with our parkland dedication bylaw, and the applicant is required to install separate services and separate accesses for both units. However, we do have an additional condition that we may not have seen before, and this condition requires that the applicant pay any applicable development charges. This allows the town the ability to review what the applicant has paid previously and ensures that they are paying the appropriate amount for servicing requirements and so forth. This is a standard condition that we are looking at whenever you have a semi-detached dwelling being divided down that common wall as it's already under construction. This isn't attached to any type of severance for the creation of a new lot when one or either lot is vacant, because development charges are taken in at the time of taking in that building permit, which they've already received. Next slide, please. Oh, and as typical, they have 2 years to fulfill all conditions. Now to remind the committee of the decisions they can make tonight, the first being approval with or without conditions, the second being deferral based on the need for more information, or the last one, denial with stating the reasons. Lastly, the planning department is recommending approval subject to the conditions that I detailed. Thank you.
Does Brad want to add anything to what was said by Ian? Okay. Any questions from the committee? No? Any questions or comments from you? Go ahead. Please go back to the sodium. Say your name as well. You need anything else? Oh, just your name. Thank you.
My name's Sean Conley. I live at 319 Eiler Avenue. This is the first I've heard of this. I never got a notice in the mail about this. So can you explain to me what we're actually looking at here? Is this an existing lot, or is this a lot that he wants to claim as a residential lot?
Existing lot that he's dividing into two with a semi-detached house being built on.
So there's an existing house on it now. There's no house on any part of this lot. So he wants to build a residential house on this lot.
Ian, you want to go for the
For this application, it was previously a vacant lot that they are now constructing a semi-detached dwelling on. So it's like 2 apartments side by side, split down a common wall.
Oh, so it's 2 apartments.
Yeah, so 2 housing units.
Is it
Split
commercial or is it residential?
residential. And so what they're here to do today is to sever that down that common wall so that each is separately conveyable. So each can, a
Like
person
a
can.
duplex, you're saying? A duplex?
Like a duplex, but split down the side, where the duplex, you have it usually 1 story on top of the other.
Right.
And so in this case, they're looking to sever it in half so that each side can be owned by the person who's living in it.
So there'll be 2 residences?
Yep.
Okay.
2 dwelling units, yes.
Okay. And this building, the square footage is what again?
Moment as I look for that. One of them, so Unit A, which is the one that's on the southern side, is around 1,174 square feet. And then Unit B, which is on the northern side, is 1,205 square feet.
But they're both attached, correct?
Yep.
So what we're talking about is two buildings, 2 residences living in. Okay. I just want to clarify. This is the first I've heard of this. That's why I never received anything in the mail or so. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Anything else being asked? Not. Oh, Andy, did you have something else to say?
If I may, I just wanted to provide some clarification on our circulation standards, if that helps. So with it, our circulation is based off of the Ontario kind of regulations, which we notify everyone within 60 meters of the property line. So with your property, you might be further away than 60 meters from this property, so 255 Laird. So that's why you wouldn't have received a notice in the mail for this one. However, you might have received a notice for another application that you were, yes. So that would be because you're within 60 meters of that one, you would have received notification of that application. Thank you.
And anything else? Oh, Matthew.
You, Mr. Chair, I'm just curious about the sequencing of events on this one. It's the duplex is currently being constructed, side by next. We're being asked to make a decision on the severance. I assume in an ideal world, the severance would be granted and then the duplex would be constructed in terms of eliminating risk to the owner and whether you can convey one or two parcels. I'm just wondering what discussions might have been held around the sequencing of events and if it might be preferred for subsequent examples, should they come forward, if that sequencing is adjusted. Thanks.
For you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to speak to semi-detached dwellings specifically. The key here is that common wall that it's being subdivided by. So when you have, we require that the foundations be put in so that we see that common wall. And when you get that survey's perfectly aligned with that common wall. Otherwise, if they go to the committee and they get the severance and then they put the foundation in, it might be off by a little bit. And even if it's off by a minuscule amount, that's not ideal. So we prefer that they go forward with the foundation first. And typically when we see these, their idea is to sever it in the future. So the key is the timing as well. You get that foundation in, then you apply to the Committee of Adjustment for a severance so that they can then have separate services, separate water, sanitary hookup, driveway access, and then they're able to finish the construction afterwards. So with it, we like to see the foundation in first so that the survey speaks exactly to that common wall. Thank you.
All right. Sean? One quick thought. Back to back.
This being built from the rear lot line of Tyler.
Go ahead.
So this, the rear lot, this one has 25 feet in accordance with our zoning bylaw. However, this is on the other side of Laird, so it's not abutting a property on Eiler. This is abutting a property actually on Milne Street. Yeah.
Anything else? Not seeing anything? Could I have a motion? Doreen? Okay, a seconder, Bill? All in favor? Motion passed. And you guys want to leave, you're more than welcome to it. Not, or you can stay. Thank you. Now we'll go with the application A 13-24. Ian?
Okay. So this is our next application and final application for tonight, being A 13-24 for the subject property 322 Laird Avenue, located on the southeastern side of Laird Ave, north of South Talbot Road South. The subject property is designated residential in the Town of Essex official plan and is zoned residential district 1.1 in the Town of Essex zoning bylaw. The applicants are proposing to construct a two-story accessory structure with a total building height of 7.02 meters, with a gross floor area of 178 square meters. The accessory structure will be located 1.5 meters from the southern interior lot line and 9.1 meters from the rear lot line. Next slide, please. All right. So for this application, the applicant is requesting relief from the following sections of the zoning bylaw, being section 14.1B5, which limits the maximum building height of an accessory building to 1 story, and section 14.1B10, which limits the size of an accessory building to 70 square meters. Next slide, please. Here we have a site plan detailing the location of the proposed accessory structure. In the site plan, we can see that the accessory structure will be 30 feet from the rear lot line and 5 feet from the interior lot line. Whereas the zoning bylaw requires an accessory structure to be located 4 feet from both the rear and side lot line. Next slide, please. Here we have an interior floor plan where the applicant has detailed items such as woodworking materials and hobby type features in order to demonstrate the use of the property and the use of the accessory structure itself. Alrighty, next slide, please. Here we have a rendering of what the proposed will look like. So you can see how the second floor has those dormers, how's that ceiling roofing structure built into the second floor. Next slide, please. And then here we have the elevations that show the same information, showing where windows will be located, doors, and the garage door as well. Next slide, please. Here we have an image of the subject property, just so we know which one is in question. Next slide, please. And then here we have images of the top right being the back of the main house or the main dwelling unit, detailing that pergola to the side, some trees. And then on the left, you can see the access to the rear yard through the interior side yard. Next slide, please. And then here we have images of the rear yard where the accessory structure will be located. Just in this vacant area, if I may say. Next slide, please. And then here you have another angle of that also showing an accessory structure in the rear yard as well. Next slide, please. All right. So here, as per our standard procedure, we have to evaluate minor variances under the 4 tests of the Planning Act and the 2 tests of the official plan. The official plan is maintained as it permits accessory structures for residential developments, and the use is considered accessory to the main. The zoning bylaws maintain as the main use of the property continues to be low-density residential, and the use of the accessory structure remains accessory to the main as it's being used primarily for hobby-type woodworking storage-type uses. This application has been deemed minor as it accounts for 5.25% of the total lot coverage and is not located within a required yard as if it was a main use of the property. A lot grading plan will be required at the time of applying for a building permit, and the applicant will be required to maintain and outlet their stormwater runoff in accordance with the property standards bylaw. No anticipated impacts of to the property's drainage capabilities are therefore seen. Significant setbacks from the rear lot line are available to allow for separation between neighboring properties, and so on. With it, we have deemed the application appropriate and desirable as the use remains accessory to the main use for storage and hobby purposes. And the second story is an efficient use of land as opposed to requesting a larger building footprint. And it's deemed appropriate as the main dwelling does not have a basement or second floor. With it, we have deemed it compatible with the character area as the accessory structure is designed so that the second floor encompasses the roofing system using dormers and is located at the rear of the property where it will be screened from view from the front yard from that street. With it, no anticipated impacts to local traffic or parking is found. And lastly, the circumstances are particular to the site as the site is 5 times larger than the standard single unit R1.1 lot. Next slide, please. So with it, we've received 2 comments from our external agencies, one from the Essex Region Conservation Authority detailing no objections, and one from the Ministry of Transportation detailing no objections and that an MTO permit or Ministry of Transportation permit will not be deemed necessary. No comments from our internal departments at this time. Next slide, please. So we have received 3 comments from members of the public, 2 in opposition, and 1 in support of the application. With the chair's permission, I would like to read these comments, if acceptable. Thank you. So I'll be reading these in order of received. So the first one from Roy, and I apologize if I mispronounce any names here, is from Roy and Maribeth Coster, detailing to whom it may concern, take notice that we contest the building construction of a 2-story, 1,916 square foot unit. Our concerns are 1, 38% larger than the current restrictions. Number 2, what is the use of said structure? Number 3, flooding of our backyard. The natural drain that is at the back of each property lot on Eiler and Laird has been compromised over the years by buildings at property lines. Number 4, poor access for fire department. And number 5, setting of a precedence for future building sizes in Essex. With it, they detail that they will not be able to attend today's meeting, and they would like us to respond to their statements as well, which we will do. The next item received is from Tracy Morris and Gabriel. They detail, hello, I am writing on behalf of myself, Tracy Morris, and my husband, George Martin Gabriel of 331 Eiler Ave in Essex regarding the application for minor variance by James Manning and Cindy Ross. My husband and I are extremely opposed to the request for a multitude of reasons. I purchased this home in January 2001. I planted trees at the back of the property and did some landscaping, which cost a fair amount of money. Within time, we lost all of our trees due to all the flooding in our backyard, which now occurs on a very regular basis. Even with the sewer upgrades on Laird, the back third of our property still continues to flood. We're aware that others on our street have the same issue. Putting up a 2-story building, which is directly behind our property, will only lend to further flooding in our backyard. With the building up, Mr. Manning referenced verbally that he wanted to do. We have, after years now, started to once again start to landscape some of our property with further improvements to continue so that we may enjoy using our backyard. We've been hesitant to do so in the same manner we initially did due to losing all of our trees, which were drowned out by all the continual flooding. We've had to shift gears and look to alternative ways of beautifying our backyard. Not only will this jeopardize further flooding in our backyard, but if permitted to go through with this request, we would now have to look at the building 2 stories high and almost 24 feet high. They are requesting almost twice the square footage than what is permitted. 1,916 square feet is a huge area, and they have already started taking down trees and has further intentions of taking down the existing shed, all of which shields seeing much in their backyard at this time. We do not want to have to sit in our backyard and have the large open area be destroyed by such a large and tall building. It blocks even being able to see the sky at a respectable level. Several years back, our neighbors parked their semi-truck in their driveway for 3 years, blocking our complete view to the right. We have large picture frame windows in our living room and dining room with a clear view of the street and other houses that allowed you to enjoy the large openness and area for security purposes. That large semi-truck completely blocked our view and took away our enjoyment over time. We felt resentment towards the neighbors. I called the town to request someone to look at it. However, the town refused to come and look unless I provided my name and contact info, which I didn't feel was necessary at the time. If it was within the bylaw, fine. If not, then the town should have done something about it. My name and contact info should have nothing to do with whether someone is breaking bylaws. We do not want the same thing to now permanently happen with our view in the backyard as well. Mr. Manning knew when he bought this property what his intentions were, as he told us. He then told us we'd have to sell the house if the request for the variance didn't go through. This is something he should have considered when he purchased this property. Why purchase in a residential area if you want to build a second structure and your property that is so large? What if there is a fire in that building? How would emergency vehicles get to it, and how would that impact the surrounding properties? The town puts bylaws into place for a reason. Essentially, this couple is asking to double the size of the current existing bylaw. This should not be allowed by the town. What kind of structure does the town have if they allow for this? It sets a precedent for others. We pay enough taxes. We should have the enjoyment of our backyard be jeopardized by the wants of someone else, nor risk even further damage to our backyard with the expected further flooding. We expect that the town of Essex to keep their agreed upon bylaw standards and not allow for this request to go through. Respectfully, Tracy Morez and Martin Gabriel. And then the last public comment received is from Leslie Holmes, details attention, Manager of Planning Services, Town of Essex, referencing file number A1324. To whom this may concern regarding the application from the minor variance requested at 332 Laird Avenue, Essex, I am writing this letter to inform the town that I am in full support of the project and have no issues with the requested variance. I reside at and am the property owner of 338 Laird, the house immediately to the right, whose property line the intended structure will be built along. I have discussed the project with the applicants and I am fine with all plans outlined. Sincerely, Leslie Holmes. Okay. All righty. Marcia, if you can put the slides back up. Please and thank you. With it, prior to discussing the conditions, there's a few items I just wanted to outline found within the comments provided. One is there, based on correspondence with neighbors, there seems to be extreme flooding and drainage issues within the rear yards or within the area of Laird and Eiler. With it, we've reached out to infrastructure services and they have no record of any municipal drains along that area. And with it, they have no issues with the proposed. Furthermore, we have discussed the application with the building department to see what items we could put in place to mitigate any flooding or impacts to drainage. And they assured us that a lot grading plan would be required at the time of applying for a building permit. And our bylaw department has informed us about the property standards bylaw detailing that they will have to control their own stormwater in accordance. With it, we do have one condition for this minor variance is that the applicant remove the two existing accessory structures located in the rear yard. This is because we have a maximum capacity to support accessory structures, being that when all of them are combined, you cannot exceed 1,000 square feet. Whereas right now, the proposed has a footprint of 1,008 square feet. So removing these two would prove favorable. Next slide, please. And here, just want to remind the committee of the decisions they can make today. The first being approval with or without conditions, deferral pending more information, or denial with stating your reasonings. And then lastly, the planning department is recommending approval subject to the one detailed condition. Thank you.
Mr. Manning, do you have anything to add to Ian's comments? Oh. Thank you.
Hello. So this is a letter that I sent that Ian asked me to send to the planning department. So to whom it may concern, please accept this letter as our justification to ask for the two minor variances required to build our new 28 by 36 unattached building. See supplied plans of the rear yard of 332 Laird Avenue. First, we'd like to say that the purchase of this home was done after carefully considering the neighborhood of Laird Avenue and viewing the many mixed homes of 2 stories, raised ranches, and even 5-story apartment buildings, and seeing many unattached structures that certainly dwarf these primary structures, and across the street, an actual 2-story unattached building. Although nothing is guaranteed when you approach a township for variations or variances, after viewing all of that, we felt we would have a good chance of getting the building we wanted to build approved. I know it's not in my letter, but I'd also like to add that when we were searching for a property, we downsized to come here to get semi-retired. And there's only so much available out there to buy right now. There is a housing shortage, and it's not just for people for affordability. It's for people trying to downsize and find properties that are going to work for their next, the next section of their lives, say, right? So I just want to say that, like, we didn't just bought the place, we're just trying to force something. But anyway, we also wanted a building that was not over assuming. So we went with a design that created the second story with using the gable and shed dormers side to side. We also proposed the building locate 47 feet from the back of the main structure of our home and 30 feet from the back of the lot line, because we're allowed up to, I think you said 4 feet. So we want to put gardens back there. And we have heard there's flooding back there, although we haven't seen that. So again, we're just trying to mitigate so that we can be good to the neighbors. This means the building will be over 160 feet from the front lot line and should not intrude on anybody going by the house. So far, we've approached a few of our neighbors most directly affected by our proposed design, and so far I've had no opposition at all to our plans, although obviously that's changed as of yesterday. We also got the letter of support from Leslie. I just wanted to point out her property is the one that's actually being most affected. So when I take a picture, that's her side yard. So that's basically, I don't know if you want to see that closer or you can see it from here, but, and she was actually the first one I approached when we bought the house. And then, I know that the letters that were sent, they mentioned that we had been removing trees, and we removed a bunch of trees last week and took out that gazebo, and we killed a bunch of trees that were already dying and were growing close together. And so this is our back lot now after I've removed, like there were trees that growing into other trees, there was deadfall. There is still more cleanup to do, but these large trees that are here are still there. So those are, just so you know, like, we have no intentions on although there are trees, we have no intention down. It's just there were literally fir trees growing into these other trees and they had nowhere to go. So we cleaned it up, and then we took out suckers and all that. So just because the letters made it sound like maybe I took all those trees out, and I have no intention of taking any more. Okay, so I was going to say as well, the lot being mostly 221 feet deep because it's got a weird little jog on it, and 85 wide. We're well under the coverage of 40%. Please see the main floor layout, which he already showed. Shows placement of all my woodworking tools, the main workbench, the parking for my lawn tractor, and lots of storage for small tools, gardening tools, as well as storage for wood and supplies. We have plans for a considerable vegetable garden, which requires tools and barrows in the main floor too for storage. This woodworking hobby includes the following main tools that I've accumulated over my life. I can go through all of this: table saw, compound miter saw, scroll saw. Let's just say I've got a whole bunch of tools and they were in the picture there. I'm not going to go. Please see the second floor layout. This is the most important thing to me, actually, that I supplied, which shows the placement of my other hobbies, workbench and law shelving to display my slot cars and rail cars when not in use. The railway is mostly Lionel, which is O scale or 1/48 scale, which means the larger locomotive or tender, they can be up to 22 inches long. So it's a big scale, but they actually, the legacy system has crew talk and synchronized chuffing, and the grandkids actually pay attention to it for more than 5 minutes in their phones. And then also, let's see, okay, well, I said that already. It is some of the most realistic model railways you can get into, but they need room for this scale. Layout will someday be fully treed with mountains. I did bring some pictures of my previous layouts if you care. On the second floor, I also want to build a newly designed 132 scale electric slot car set. I've included photos of my last layout that was almost scenery completed before we decided to downsize. The scenery included casting my own rocks and using dry brush techniques. Other than my 2 youngest, our 13 grandchildren all have their own slot car, mostly, so they leave mine alone. But they do mostly indulge their Papa James and his hobbies. Once I get settled in my new structure, I'm hoping to put the finishing touches on a dollhouse I've been building for the last few years for the youngest. And lastly, I'd like to say that our hope is to have this approved so that our planned next 25 years, if we make it that far, can carry on with semi-retirement for now and later retirement in our township of Essex. So that's basically the deal. Any questions? Yes, well, sorry. I'm not going to start, talking to people in the public.
Okay, I'll wait. I'm gonna go to the committee first and then I'll go out to the public. Does anyone else have any questions? Doreen?
Related to fire.
Through you, Chair, yes, it was circulated to fire and they did not provide any comments.
Prefer to hear from any others who may wish to speak first.
So I just have one other comment before I here.
No, I'm sure you'll be back up. Just,
Oh, okay.
anyone from the audience want to speak to this? Let's go ahead.
Once again, Sean Conley, first of all, I made a complaint that, apparently you don't have a record of it, but this was 4 days ago. It was a report of a problem. I'm surprised you didn't get that because they've had it for quite a while.
Went to report a problem, which it goes to the center of the town of Essex, not to Essex Planning directly. So I can, or if the applicant would like, you could read the comment out, or I could read it, or we could send it around the room as well.
I'll be covering it with it.
Okay.
You can just forward it to them. I've got copies of that. Okay, I've got some questions. First of all, how long has the applicant lived on the property?
Anything to do with the application?
Okay, just not knowing
It doesn't
the
matter.
history of the neighborhood.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. There's no access to the Essex Fire Department vehicles to travel at the end of the property, especially in winter where the building is to be located. You know? The applicant is planning on building a 1,008 square footage building opposed to a current limit of 750 square feet. Town council should limit the construction close to existing homes where Eiler backyards are located. Flooding would be reduced if this were a case. So if they were to limit how close you can build on the property line of Eiler, it would eliminate the flooding problem that we have. Which would mean, why not have these people build closer to their house rather than closer to our backyard? They're big lots. I mean, you could build 3 houses on these lots. Okay. Backyards on Eiler Avenue, 319, 315, 311, and 307 have been flooded every spring due to the construction of 2 buildings close to the property line of 319 Eiler Avenue some years ago. These backyards never flooded prior to the 2 buildings being constructed. Despite complaints to the town of Essex, no action was taken. Now another building construction is planned next door to the rear lot, well, near my lot, 319 Eiler Avenue, resulting in catastrophic flooding in the form of a mentioned lots. I'll go through that again, 319, 315, 311, and 307. We've all been, every spring we get flooded. There's no drainage on these variances. There was though, and there still is, how could I describe it? A cement conduit going all the way along our backyards, but it's been blocked. My neighbor actually has access to it. He got a contractor to dig down and get access to that conduit so he doesn't drain. He's next to me. I talked to the contractors that worked on this whole sewage problem we had in Essex. Remember when everybody was rebuilding the sewage? He said, oh yeah, down at the end, the other end, they had access to that drainage. It exists. I phoned Essex, well, geez, 15 years ago. They said it could be there, but they have no record of it because it's so old. I was editor of the Essex Times back then, and this thing was built, this whole subdivision was built around people started moving in 1970. So it exists, but the town doesn't have any record of it. So they're saying, well, it doesn't exist, but it does exist. Okay. I wish council or you would direct the fire department to inspect the planned area in order to see if there would be a problem if there was a fire, especially that close to the lot line of Eiler. This variance would set precedent for future construction of buildings threatening flooding and fire to existing Eiler Avenue residents. So this has been a problem for the properties I just mentioned. There's a lot more. You start setting a precedent for people to start building little shops right on the lot. The whole Eiler backyard is going to be flooded. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be ridiculous. And who's going to be, I hope this is all going to be on the record. So if this does happen in the future, this town's going to be in trouble because you could face a class action suit for a number of people that are complaining about all of a sudden they're getting flooded when they didn't before. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else have anything to say? Questions? I have a question for you, James. What utilities are you bringing back to that shed? Are you bringing water, sewage?
Well, I want electricity. And I would like one hose bib on the wall that's facing, or the outside that's facing the 30 feet. Because we're gonna have gardens there and I want to be able to hook up water and timer. But I have no plans for sanitary. At our back door is our second bathroom and that's gonna be my bathroom. So, and this is an engineered slab with steel in it. So it doesn't learn how to get sewage later. Like once it's poured, it's 18 inches deep. So like it's never gonna become like well, I mean, maybe when I'm dead, if somebody wants to blow up a corner, but it's not gonna become residential and I don't want a bathroom in there. So I'll just have to deal with the whole thing with washing my airbrushes and such. But I did want to say though that like I am planning this building 30 feet from the back lot line. And I don't know if this is legal or not, but I haven't talked to the permit department. But I know that Leslie does have a flooding problem. I know that the people that wrote the letter right behind me, they have a flooding problem. And supposedly, well, that shed that I have to take down, it's all rotten. And it obviously floats around on a regular basis. So I don't have a basement. I just have a crawl space. And so I don't want a water issue either. So if I'm allowed to, I want to put a catch basin in the corner of my property by Leslie's and mine and the people behind me. And I want to take it to my storm drains on my house. And I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or not, but you know, it's something that I definitely will consider doing if I'm allowed to do it. If it ends up digging to the street, that's a whole other deal. I don't know if I can afford to do that, but so I mean, certainly in terms of the water aspect, I know with the building itself, I don't know if they'll make me connect to the storms or not with it. A lot of times in other jurisdictions, I've built buildings before, they just let you do it out onto the lawn. I mean, it is a big building, but it's not that big, right? I'm not displacing a lot of water, but all I can say to this gentleman's concerns, I do want to deal with the groundwater because we're going to have a garden there. And, you know, I don't want it underground every winter, right? Because, you know, garlic is a bulb. It likes to grow through the winter and it doesn't like being wet. So anyway, I don't think there was anything else unless you have another question. Okay.
Can you turn the mic? Does the planning committee have something or planning department have something to say?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just in response to the comment about connecting to the stormwater sewer, the policy of the town of Essex is that we don't allow connections, and that's obviously to, you know, prevent any overflow into our stormwater management facilities. So what I do encourage Mr. Manning to do is at the time of a building permit application, speak to our building department about other measures that you can undertake to assist with any potential flooding or issues regarding stormwater management on your property.
Other question? Go ahead. Are you doing a motion or a question? Go ahead there, Matthew.
Sure. I had wanted to understand some of the drainage aspects and that was just explained, so that's helpful. And it looks like it's a street with a rural cross section. It's all just grading that's going to deal with getting water off the site. And so I'd wondered about routing through pipes, and it sounds like that's not workable. at this site, so that's helpful. The total building height, a two-story accessory structure is roughly 23 feet. Can you help me understand, is that a pretty average height for a two-story dwelling? Is it less than a typical two-story dwelling, more? Can you help me understand that?
Just want to look for one thing really quickly. I don't know the average height of a dwelling itself. However, in the R1.1 district, which is the same zone as this application, maximum building height for a single detached dwelling, semi-detached, 2-unit dwelling is 10 meters, which is 32 feet, if that helps in providing some numbers.
Thank you. So certainly very sympathetic to the application. It's great to have hobbies. And kudos to the applicant in terms of the building design. It's visually appealing. The overall footprint of the accessory structure, the footprint when viewed from above, I mean, if it's 916 square feet over 2 feet, I'm assuming 2 floors, I'm assuming it's roughly half that in terms of overall footprint. So by my math, that comes in at around 958 square feet. So the footprint of the structure when viewed from above does exceed the permitted footprint of or square footage of 750 square feet, but it's not a significantly larger number. And so I observed that. I had a good look up, so I was sort of thinking around some of these tests that we're asked to consider, and in particular, there's the test around is the variance minor, and is it compatible with the established character of the neighborhood? And so I was sort of sitting there thinking, okay, so what's a neighborhood? And is it layered from Talbot Street to South Talbot? Or is it something less than that? And so I just, for the interest of generating some insights here, I just picked the block that the applicant lives on. So between, is that Milne and South Talbot, if I have that correct? So I counted 30 homes on both sides of the road. Most of the homes have accessory structures in the back. Only 2 of them were 2 stories. So a large majority were single story. Only 2 of the homes on that block are 2 story. A large majority of them are ranchers. They're single story. And so as I thought about that, through this lens of compatibility with the established character of the neighborhood, I was sort of left with a feeling that while the footprint of the structure is larger than permitted, it's still reasonable. It's still minor. When you add the second story on, I'm struggling. Permitted is 1 story. The application is for 2. It's a doubling. Gross square feet is roughly double the permitted amount. And so for me, I'm struggling with the notion that this is minor. So I've got those 2 challenges right now around established character of the neighborhood and whether this is in fact minor. So that's what's going through my mind as we have this discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Chair. Couple questions to the proponent, if I may, the applicant. Yes. We'll go there. We're gonna have to communicate. First of all, and I'm just gonna, some of my comments will be subsequent to my colleague here in terms of what he spoke about. I guess the character of the neighborhood has additional structures, but not to that size. And I looked as well, and I think you said one and one does not make it common to the area. the size, first of all, is more, in my opinion, than minor. I need to ask a question, a couple of things. You know, we talk about use and whatnot. It's hard for us to determine what you're going to use it for ever. And we've been in the past caught on this where somebody says, I'm just going to do this, and they turn into another little small business in their area. I noticed when I was doing my site visit, you're in the hot tub business, correct?
No.
I saw the sign.
Well, we just got a hot tub and the guy left a sign in our front yard.
Okay, good. Clears that up. So
Yeah, no worries.
my reason for asking is because we've been caught before where these are built and we agreed because they're minor in nature, but
Mhm.
then they move in their whole operation. So
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of hobbies going on. But I'm a little troubled with the justification from administration alone in terms of the height and the footprint. The height is about 50% more, well, not quite, but it is. And the footprint is 2.5 times the size that we're supposed to agree to. And it is, I agree with him, it's a good looking spot, structure. But for those reasons, I don't believe it's minor in nature. We have, I guess I should ask administration, if I may, through you. In our new official plan, are we going to reconsider the square foot justification for additional dwelling units on a property? Because if that's the case, 750, and we're going to get asked to look at these in minor, this, if we were to approve this, we could have many more coming through asking the same size. So does our official plan address footprint size and total square footage?
You shut off the mic there, Manning, and go ahead there, Rita.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So our official plan, Member Baker, doesn't address building regulations, setbacks, building heights. That's addressed through our zoning bylaw. I know it has been considered in the past. We don't have any formal direction from council or any intention to look at it yet, but we might in the future.
So that's clear. So having said that, then this still, in my opinion, is slightly greater than minor. I can't really see I can support the size of it. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to say? I'm looking for a motion. Motion for, go ahead.
To approve with conditions as noted.
Kinder. I don't have a seconder, so, okay. Motion to approve. Are all in favor? All opposed? Motion defeated. So now I'm looking for another motion to whether we defer this for more information or we defeat the motion or the application.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
the motion has been defeated.
But there's no, we've already determined that it hasn't been approved. So we have to have one or the two. Either we're going to defer it or we're going to not deny it.
I correct me if I'm wrong, we'll go to administration. I believe we just denied it.
Did we deny it? Oh, I'm,
Chair. So there are two variances tied to this application, one for the actual size of the accessory building and one for the second story. So I think staff is just looking for clarification as to whether that motion was for both variances or just one.
to how you wanted to clarify that motion?
I apologize, Chair, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to approve the application for the first variance from the square footage, not the second for height.
There for that. Oh, I guess we've already defeated that, so we have a, oh crap. I guess it's clarified. I guess, can we have a seconder for the clarification? No, you can't. No.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I need to be clarified on this clarification. The application I thought in this here was for both. It was one application addressing both of these conditions. The motion on the floor was to accept the application as it was with both of those minor variances conditions. That application, the motion was defeated based on those two conditions. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead on that, Rita.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the way I understood it is that the entire application was defeated, both variances.
Okay, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, the application has been defeated. And there we are. Right? Okay. And now it's a motion to adjourn.
I do believe that we have not accepted, we did not adopt the agenda earlier tonight. We did?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, my apologies. Sorry. I thought I
I
didn't,
think you
I
seconded.
thought it was just
I think
the,
you seconded that, actually.
no, I did the minutes, but not the agenda.
No, we didn't. Okay, so now it's motion to adjourn. Motion for, moved by Bill, seconded by Doreen. Sorry. Thank you for your time.